If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer, which has helped me immensely because I honestly had no idea how to do any of that, and I'm learning with it. Anchor will also distribute your podcast for you. I'm now currently on 9 different platforms, and these include Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can also make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Music, interviews, and more from the Stash Podcast right now. So buckle up.
Welcome back to another From the Stash podcast. Today's episode is going to be a little bit different. I'm not going to have a guest. I'm just going to be doing it myself. And today's topic, majority of today's topic will be MySpace music and bands. And I'll bullshit about some other music ideas and topics as well. First and foremost, I just want to let everyone know that doesn't know already, I run a booking company called Heart of Haven Entertainment. And I have a concert coming up August 15th at the McAlpine Meadery and Winery in Beach City, Ohio, on Mixed Genre Showcase. Bunch of different kinds of music. $10 at the door, plus 3 if you're under 21. But just wanted to shout that out real quick. Okay, with that being said, MySpace was such a huge, integral part of the music scene. And even it is now still to this day, and I don't mean by the site being used, but what I mean by that was a lot of the bands that are still on top of the scene got their start from MySpace. And I wholeheartedly believe that a majority of these bands would have never gone outside of their home state if it weren't for MySpace. MySpace was such a revolutionary social media platform that didn't require a band to have a manager and booking agent and labels and distribution. It was so far ahead of its time that I look back at it, and even today, there's nothing that is as, how do I want to word this? As, for lack of a better word, good as MySpace was with promoting bands and helping bands grow. I can remember one of the very first bands that stands out to me that I found on MySpace was The Devil Wears Prada. Back in their infancy, heard a song in the sentence trails off and modify the pronunciation. Swords, Dragons, and Diet Coke, and there was one more I can't remember. Oh man, what was the name of that other song? Anyways, I can't think of it off the top of my head. But, and I'm sure if you ask those guys, MySpace launched their career. They released a self-titled EP, Patterns of the Horizon. Shortly thereafter, they were signed to an indie label out of Portland, Oregon, known as Rise Records, and just took off like wildfire from there on out. And there's just a list of so many bands and artists that got their start from MySpace. Miss May, Attack Attack, Devil Wears Prada, Panic at the Disco, Black Veil Brides, Whitechapel. I'd like to believe that the grindcore scene got its limelight from MySpace because it was such an underground type of listenership, and when MySpace came around, grindcore was then popularized more mainstream than it had ever been before. I'd have to say that it's hard to do I was going to do a top 10 or a top 5 list for this, but it's too hard because there's so many bands. But there again, The Devil Wears Prada, Enter Shikari, a band from the UK I found on there. Miss May, Attack Attack, Nevaeh Tears. So many bands. The list goes on and on. And the way they had it set up, they had charts. like a billboard chart, basically. But you could break it down to literally mileage of a certain city, like 5 miles within where I'm from, Beloit, Ohio, and it would show you any genre, the top bands for those genres. And it was just so innovative and just so groundbreaking. And I was extremely sad to see it go, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. I know myself, that helped launch my musical career, if you want to call it that, performing wise. I would sit on MySpace, and I remember they used to have these MySpace trains, these like friend train things. And whatever band I was in at the time or managing at the time, I would join these trains. And at one point, I had a band that I used to manage, Skies of Crimson. Shout out Kevin Phillips. Shout out Brad Etta. Shout out Matt Beach. Shout out Dave Unkfer. Shout out Jason Miller. Anyways, I had their page up to almost, I mean, we were averaging anywhere from 50,000 to 100,000 plays a day. I had them over 1.5 million plays a day. I remember Brad used to help a lot with the promotion on that side of things. And it was just mind-blowing to see a local band be able to reach that many plays. I don't think there's any platform out there now that even offers close to the accessibility, listenership, exposure as what MySpace did. I mean, Facebook, for instance, my band Ocean's Factory, we have 4,000 likes, something like that. Well, when we make a post or whatever, maybe 100 people see it because they want you to pay for your whole audience to see it, or more of your audience to see it, which it's a double-edged sword. I get it. It's a business. They need to make money and whatnot. But I also look at it as it's kind of shady because they make a lot of money off advertisements anyways. They don't need to milk these local bands that are looking for a platform to distribute their music and art. But like I said, I can remember seeing 100,000 plays and whatnot, and it was just, and it was rewarding. I remember I had a logbook where I would write in each day and time the amount of plays they had that day, friends, etc., profile views, and it was just so. It was like every day I tried to get more views and more plays and things like that, comments, whatever. I know a lot of people are going to be able to relate to this. I remember just signing in, and I'd always wait to see and hope to see the little like message icon, and you have new mail, new messages, new friends, whatever, new comments on the, I think it was on the left-hand middle side of your profile page. That was like a highlight of my day to refresh my page and see. I was such a MySpace whore, for lack of a better word. But back to how the charts worked. There's a site called Reverb Nation that has charts that are similar to how MySpace works. But again, Reverb Nation wants you to pay money, et cetera, and Reverb Nation is specifically only music. So it doesn't get a lot of traffic. Where MySpace was so innovative it was Twitter, Facebook, and SoundCloud all in one application, all in one website. I can remember when it was dying out, I almost refused to join Facebook, and then I did like everyone else, because me as a businessman stuff, you kind of have to. It's the best way to reach your audience. And it's such a shame that Facebook has monopolized social media to the point where it's hard to reach an audience nowadays. And also, it's such a dog-eat-dog world in the music scene as far as the competitiveness. I feel that MySpace was kind of. I know now there's a lot less record labels, especially main big record labels, major labels, and I feel like MySpace was a part of bringing down that machine, which is awesome for an artist, from an artist standpoint and stuff, because a lot of times bands get screwed by these labels and end up, ruining a lot of these bands, ending these bands' careers and artists' careers. So I feel like MySpace took out a lot of that, and a lot more bands were doing DIY and didn't have to rely on some major label to, again, back to the distribution and all that stuff. So I truly believe that when MySpace kind of fizzled out, it was the start of the death of the local music scene. I've been doing it since 2005, and it's 2020 now, and the music scene is nothing like it used to be. Not even close. And I truly attribute a lot of that to MySpace going out because there's no central hub for millions and millions of people to go to and get that much exposure on an event or a show to promote it. And also, it is such a dog eat dog world and such a competitive world, that music world, that it's sad because from Autumn Nash's lyric, this is not a product. We're not in a competition. It's just a short little lyric. They're talking about the music, how people treat it so much like a competition and a product as opposed to an art in coming together and pushing that art out to people. Like I always say, music is to bring people together, not divide them. And I've always told bands and artists, look, the more people you work with and play shows with and stuff like that, the better off. Because you're going to integrate all the audiences together, and your music's going to get put out to a broader audience. And in the long run, it's better for all parties involved. Now, let's talk about a few other music sites. SoundCloud. SoundCloud, to me, a lot of people might not like this. I can't stand it. I think it's garbage. You can literally pay for plays, more or less. And what I mean by that is, and the same with Reverb Nation, you can pay for a yearly membership or monthly membership, and they blast your music out to people. But if you don't, then, it's only going to show up to, I don't know how their algorithm works. I refuse to find out that, and grinding is not paying to find out how the distribution works and how plays go. But people will literally just pay for plays. And it takes the true artistry out of music, to me. When you can do something like that, find a shortcut or a loophole to just, I don't know. And I know it's kind of hypocritical of me to say, because I was talking about the MySpace trains, but it is also on SoundCloud. Unless you pay for that membership, you can only upload so much time of music as in minutes, which to me that just blows my mind. So I refuse to even use it. Unless a band or an artist sends me a song clip or a song from their SoundCloud, I'll go check it out. Other than that, I don't use it. And then back to Reverb Nation, it's okay. It has a good interface and stuff, but again, they want you to pay to blast out your stuff and blah blah blah. But they do have charts, which I do like a lot. I truly believe that if somebody could, which is probably too hard now because you got all these social media platforms, but if somebody could just get that formula right of, social media, as well as maybe short form video, comments and likes and things like that, which essentially is kind of YouTube in a way. But if somebody could do that on a social media platform where it's MySpace set up like that, how MySpace had worked as a website, I feel like that's a gold mine. And if somebody could market it well enough to reach a huge audience, I think that it would be something that would blow up, add the charts and incentive for people to get on and promote their music and stuff. I'd like to thank Black Sales Liquidation for sponsoring this podcast. Located at 308 East Main Street, Alliance, Ohio, this liquidation store slashes prices more than 50% off all retail store prices. Home Depot, Lowe's, Best Buy, Walmart, and even Amazon products. The number 330-680-4942. 330-680-4942. Eric Strada owner, Jesse Smith owner. Their hours, Monday and Tuesday, 11 a.m. to 5 p.m., and Wednesday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Again, I want to thank Black Sales Liquidation, located at 308 East Main Street, Alliance, Ohio, for sponsoring this podcast. But let's talk about some more MySpace bands that were impactful to me, and I'm sure a lot of listeners and people out there as well. Attack Attack. I remember them coming out, Stickly and People's Elbow, and how innovative and different their music was and how popular it had gotten because of MySpace. And they kind of were on the tail end of it as well. So it was kind of sad to see that happen when they didn't create a genre or anything like that, but you could tell that there were a lot of cookie cutter type bands, which was a good thing because it was different than your typical metalcore, hardcore metal music, which was awesome. Another band that comes to mind, Miss May I remember they were kind of popular on a regional level down in Troy, Ohio, and they came out with a cover of Swing, the rap song Swing, and that just pushed them into huge popularity. And Fear and Faith came out with a song cover of Gangster's Paradise, and put it on MySpace, and that blew them up. And again, if they wouldn't have had that wide audience base and stuff to reach from MySpace, I truly, honestly believe that they would have never been even a tenth of what they are today and ended up being. Of course, Attack now not around anymore, but Caleb's in Beartooth and doing better than ever. It also allowed for indie labels and stuff to be able to kind of jumpstart and things like that as well. But back to the bands, I mentioned Enter Shikari, that a song Return to Energizer. That was a very revolutionary song as far as the whole genre. It was genre bending. It was a lot in the form of the Attack, even though they came before Attack. It was just very, very different. Nevaeh Tears is another band that I can think of off the top of my head. And then again, it goes back to that electronic type of metalcore. But another band that, they kind of fell off when MySpace stopped. And that's not the reason they fell off, but coincidentally enough, they did fall off when MySpace fell off. And I know that Justin Timberlake had purchased MySpace. And I don't know, I haven't even been on the site for ages. I know all the music's gone and all that, and so I'm not sure why he purchased it or what he plans on doing with it or whatever. I don't know that there could be a comeback for it. I just wish that Facebook would, A, stop being so greedy, and B, be a little bit more of a music-friendly platform. Or even make a platform that is Facebook Music or something. Do something with it, because it's such a shame that it's hard for bands to promote themselves and get out there without spending so much money. A lot of money. Okay, now a few bands. We're going to talk about some bands that, just some more notable bands, things like that, a little bit more info about them, and things like that you may not know were their careers were started by MySpace or from MySpace. Black Veil Brides. Andy Barasak was a teenager at the time. He was called Andy Six. And the debut album, it sold like 10,000 copies in its first week, something like that. And it snowballed from there. Bring Me the Horizon. They're juggernauts now. I think it's safe to say that they will go down and still are, but will go down as one of the most successful bands from MySpace. Boy, that was almost 10 years ago? I think so. Yeah, jeez. Man, that's crazy. I do believe they were the most popular band on the website in 2010, right when it was shutting down. So yeah, let's talk about just some notable bands here real quick. I'll name off. Cute is What We Aim For, Panic at the Disco, From First to Last, which featured Skrillex, aka Sonny Moore. Say Anything, Seosin, The Almost, which was Aaron Gillespie, drummer of Underoath's band. Let's see, 303, that whole like crunkcore genre. There are Three Millionaires and what's the other band? Broken Side. They were huge on MySpace. Hollywood Undead literally was on MySpace records, which is kind of funny if you think about it, but it makes me super nostalgic just to think back and think what would the music genre be like now, all music genres, if it weren't for MySpace and having such an influence, the bands that were successful and still are from MySpace, setting such a curve and setting such a bar of how music should be and is, and it's really interesting to think about where would music be now, because I mean it would undeniably be much different than what it is if it weren't for the MySpace influence or influence of artists that are out and were successful. I say it a lot still. Man, I wish MySpace were around. Man, I wish MySpace was around. Knowing what I know now, because when MySpace was popular and stuff like that, I was still an immature, teenager and then young adult. Now almost 33 years old. Knowing what I know now, man, oh man, I'd give anything to have a platform like MySpace. But I'm not going to make this episode too long or anything. I wanted to just try it out solo and stuff. Let me know what you think. And again, you can subscribe now to the channel. Just click anchor.fm/from the stash. And there's a support button. And if you do, I greatly appreciate it. But thanks for tuning in to another podcast from the stash. Your host, James Davis McAllister. I'm out.